Hi everyone, my name is Sima and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my makeup based off of the album Sounds Good Feels Good by 5 Seconds of Summer. This is like a project I wanted to do for a while. I was tagged by a friend in a post to post my top 10 favorite albums, and then that same week I'd seen a lot of posts about how people were doing their makeup based on their favorite albums, and I kind of wanted to like combine those two concepts together and do my top 10 favorite albums. And then I posted 2 and then stopped because this was during the early stages of the pandemic and the pandemic really hit me. And then I wanted to pick it up and like finish it, and then because I actually had listed out all the albums I wanted to, and then I just like never did. And so I figured when I picked it back up again, I might as well just like do it on video. So today we're doing Sounds Good Feels Good, but we're not doing the standard edition. We're doing one of the deluxe edition like covers. They had like 4, I think they were like Target exclusive covers that had different like color schemes, and each one had like a different member of the band's face on it. So we're doing the one that has Luke's face on it. It's this one. I'm gonna put like a better picture up for you guys, but I have it on my phone for reference. It's mostly blue and orange with like little smatterings of like, it's like this yellow color that like on my phone almost like skews a bit green, but I can't tell if it actually skews green, or if it skews green because it's like among the blue, or because of just the way it's showing up on my phone screen. But I'm gonna try to find a yellow that skews a little green for that. I have like 5 or 6 eyeshadow palettes just here to like reference, because I really try to color match these really accurately, and it doesn't often show up on camera the way it shows up like in the pan or in person, but I do try to color match them as faithfully as I can to what the album cover looks like for me. I don't really have like an idea yet, but looking at this, I just figured I wanted to do one of the bonus covers just because I think the color schemes are more interesting than the standard edition, which I will also pop up here. Standard edition is kind of like a beigey color with a little bit of green and just black, so I just thought this was a little more fun. Okay, yeah, so without further ado, I'm gonna jump in. I'm also just gonna talk about the album and why I love it so much while I do my makeup. I figured that would be a little more interesting than watching me do, especially my base, like in the standard way that I always do it. Cool, if that interests you, please keep watching. So to start off, I'm just gonna take this BECCA Backlight priming filter and put it on. One thing I noticed is that I feel like I've talked about how I don't really like this primer before, but I realized I just wasn't putting enough of it on, and I think if you like actually put a lot of it on your face, it really does give you like a really nice like kind of natural looking glow to your skin, which does actually look kind of nice. But I think some people just don't like looking like that, or if you're like oily, you're not gonna want to like combine that with like a super glowy, super dewy primer, I don't think. But when I really pile this on to the point where like my whole like face is like shimmering under before I put my foundation on, I do think it looks really nice. Okay, so this album came out I believe in 2015. Yeah, October 2015. Okay, that's what I thought. I remember being a 5 Sauce stan in 2015 so well. I was like, I'm gonna be really real, that was like one of the happiest times of my life. I was genuinely like, that band and the friends I made through it made me so freaking happy. Like I still talk to those people to this day. It's definitely the most fun I think I've ever had in like a fandom, just in terms of like no drama. Like I'm sure there was drama, but like my circle didn't really have all that much drama like compared to like other, like there was drama because like it's fandom and every fandom has drama, but it was not drama in the way it is in like other fandoms where I get like genuinely like viscerally angry about it. Like it was just dumb stuff, like arguments between like individual people that I didn't really care about. But the fandom itself for a very long time was pretty drama free until like certain events. But by that time that stuff happened, I kind of was like already not really paying attention. But in 2015, it was like a very good time to be a fan of this band. And so that album came out at a really good time. And then it was just like such, at least to me, a very good like album. Like it's still my favorite album of theirs, which is like, I don't know. I feel like for people that are still a fan of the band, it's maybe like a little bit controversial, because I feel like nowadays everyone who's still there really likes their new sound better, which is like fine and like valid, and like I'm not disagreeing with people that prefer that sound. But I, as we know, I'm an emo bitch at heart. I'm a pop punk bitch at heart. I have always been, sorry, I'm taking the Too Faced Born This Way foundation and putting that on. I've just always been like a fan of like pop punk and emo sounding stuff. And like what really drew me to 5 Sauce was that they were like my age pretty much. Like all of them are like either my age or younger, except for Ashton, who's a couple months older, but they were all like my age, and we all like were fans of the same bands and like the same music. And like I could see bands that I was like really inspired by growing up like in their sound, and then cited as influences of theirs, and it was like, it felt like it really made me feel close to them. And it was one of those things where it was like, because it was like the first time I feel like I was a fan of something where it wasn't like these were people that were like much older than me, and it was people I could actually like see myself in. Like it was like, I don't want to call it like us like peers, because like that's a little weird for people like you've never met, but like it was like we were like, I felt like a kinship with them that I never felt like growing up, like being a fan of like Fall Out Boy or like Panic at the Disco. I was like never like, I would never look at those people. And even though now I'm like 26 and I look at like someone in their 30s and I'm like, okay, we could we are peers now, kind of, in a way, where I could like have a conversation with you or like be your friend. When you're like 14 and you're looking at like a 22-year-old, you're not in any way peers. Like that's a grown-ass adult, and not someone, like it's someone you really like look up to as like an older person, like like an adult, really. It's like a completely different dynamic versus like if you're 22 looking at like a 30-year-old, if you're 26 looking at like a 34-year-old, you know? Like those are different dynamics. But so especially, so me being like, how old was I in 2015? Like 20? So like me being 20 and then being a fan of these guys who are also like 20, 21, 19, 20, 21, it was kind of like, okay, well, this is a new experience, but not in a bad way, like in a really cool way, because it was like, oh, look, it's like people that were like me and definitely listen to that same stuff going out in the world and like also creating stuff like that. And especially I feel like in 2015, where the pop punk scene kind of had like died down a little bit, like I feel like we're seeing kind of a bit of a revival nowadays, but this was kind of like between the end of like, I feel like the pop punk emo scene like heydays of like 2007 to like 2012. It was like after that, but before like this like e-girl scene core revival that we're kind of seeing now, where it's like a lot of like Gen Z is really like going back to that kind of thing and like really citing those same bands as like inspiration, and like a lot of newer bands are coming up that like sound like that or also cite those groups as inspiration. Like Five Sauce came like right between that time with that album, and so it was like a sound that I was really like desperately missing. A lot of the bands that I was a fan of who made music like that or had made music like that but had like changed or evolved, but I still like associated with them with that scene, and I still like followed them because I got into them because they made that kind of music. They were all on break or hiatus, or they weren't like making new music, and so it was just like, I don't know what I'm saying, but the album came out at like a very pivotal time, and it was a sound that was like very familiar to me, but coming, I don't know what is going on, but I like feel like I look very pale. Hi, sorry, I just wanted to like double check my camera settings because I was looking really pale for like reasons I don't quite understand, but I don't know what's going on. Anyways, yeah, so what I was saying was I just felt like a very strong like kinship with them, and very strong like, I don't know, they just resonated with me in a way that I was like, not only am I like a fan of you and a fan of what you're doing, but I'm also like weirdly proud of you in a weird way. It was just like you came up at the same time as me, and I could see myself in you in a lot of ways, and like they would talk in interviews and say things that really resonated with me, just like not in like an emotional like, oh, we like have the same experiences, but just like, you know, like I was also that kid who like listened to lots of All Time Low and listened to lots of Fall Out Boy and like really looked up to those people, and to see them making music that sounded like that and becoming friends with these people, and you know, just like kind of reaching those heights that I think every person who like was like a fan of an emo band in like 2009 kind of wanted to reach. It was very cool. So that's all the emotional stuff. They already had already released like an album prior to this, and like their self-titled debut, like definitely, sorry, I'm taking the Too Faced Born This Way concealer and I'm just gonna put that on too. The shades and everything are gonna be in the description down below for like my base and like everything else I'm using. But anyways, so there's that aspect, and their debut album, and this isn't to say that their debut album wasn't these things. Like their debut album definitely had like influence, like you could tell, like again, they were not making up the fact that they were influenced by these bands. Like you could hear that in their first album too. But I think Sounds Good Feels Good was like the album they were like actually allowed to like fully lean into that sound and like explore it the way they wanted to, and not have it like watered down to be more poppy. So I really like a lot of songs on their debut, but Sounds Good Feels Good was like the album for me. Like it truly was like a culmination of all of that, like all those bands growing up, and that the influence of that sound like on a generation, I feel like you could hear in that album. And it was just like a really impressive like technically album. Like I feel like they experimented a lot. They did a lot of really interesting things. There's like, I have a ranking of my favorite songs on that list, but like truly even like my least favorite song on that album, I still like think of it very fondly because it is on that album, and I just like, I love that album so much. And they really like, in songs like The Girl Who Cried Wolf, they really tried a lot of really new things that I thought were really cool and were just like very impressive and fun to listen to. I'm taking the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder just to set my under eyes. Huge fan of them. I feel like Five Sauce never really got the chance they deserve to kind of like make it amongst the fan base they wanted to make it as. And this is not like I feel like there's gonna be a lot of controversy about this comment, because I feel like people get really upset when you say this, but like, and this isn't like they didn't get a chance to like make a fan base that they wanted out of like male fans or whatever, but it was like they wanted to be a pop punk band, right? Like, but they toured with One Direction, and you know, I wouldn't like, it's up to you to like call it a career misstep or not. I think it was a huge opportunity, and I understand why they said yes, and I don't think they should have said no, because I think it definitely opened a lot of doors for them. But I also feel like, especially back in like from like 2013 to like 2017, I want to say, you could really sense like a frustration, I think, in that they were being treated like a boy band. not that there's anything wrong with being a boy band, like as someone who like stayed One Direction for like 5 years straight, there's nothing wrong with being a boy band, but when that's not like the sound you're going for, or it's not even what you're doing, like you're not in any way a boy band, like you're just like a band with like young dudes in it, and you all play instruments and you all sing and you all have like, you're all very talented at what you do, and you are not like put together or manufactured in the way that like a lot of boy bands are, and you just really have nothing that associates you as being a boy band besides having toured with a boy band. Look, I can see why you would be frustrated with that label. I'm sorry, I just put on the Hourglass Ambient lighting powder in dim light to set the rest of my face. And now I'm gonna grab this NARS Laguna and just like bronze and contour. So I can see how you would like be frustrated with like constantly being put in that box when that's like not what you're doing. And if you're putting it like, I don't know, rock music, and people were calling you a pop star, you'd be like, okay, that's not what I'm doing. Like, why are you all fundamentally misunderstanding what I'm doing? And it's not like a derogatory thing on pop, but it's just like, you know, if you're like an EDM person and people are calling you like metal, you'd be like, okay, that's not it though. You know, it's just like a fundamental, like, nobody likes to be misunderstood. So when people are fundamentally misunderstanding what you're about just because of who you're affiliated with, like, I can see how that would be frustrating. I don't know what I'm going with this, but I just feel like that album was was fundamentally not given enough attention because people associated it with like an act they assumed was like some manufactured boy band, when in fact it literally was just like, it was just a bunch of guys from Australia who liked the same music and just decided to make a band together, like, which is like the origin story of so many bands. Like, but for some reason, because Five Sauce toured with One Direction, they don't get the time of day. And like, I know, like I remember reading an EP interview where they talked about how they kind of had to make the decision of, do we want to do Warped Tour this year or do we want to tour with One Direction? And like, I think to like, you know, be able to get like the cred that they wanted, they probably should have done Warped Tour. But I think fundamentally it would be like insane to be given the opportunity to tour with One Direction and not like expose yourself to that audience, like that huge of an audience and that huge of like a platform, you know? So like, it's one of those things where I understand why they made the decision they did, and I don't think they regret it, and I don't think they should. But I can see why it was a tough one, where it was like, okay, we're risking putting ourselves in this box that's not accurate, but we're also, if we don't take the risk, we're also putting ourselves, like, we're taking ourselves off of a platform that has so much potential. So for blush, I'm gonna take this Anastasia blush trio in Peachy Love, and I'm gonna take this Miami shade, which is like the most orange one of the three, just because this album has orange on it, so I feel like it makes sense for my blush to kind of try to mimic that energy as best I can. But because the focus here is definitely going to be on the eyes, we're going to try to go light on blush, even though we haven't really been doing that lately. So yeah, that's how like I feel about that album, and why I think it was just like, it was a really good album that just like, was not really given a chance to shine, and that will forever frustrate me in a lot of ways, because it's a beautiful album. Like, it really, really is. The Girl Who Cried Wolf is such a beautiful song. Jet Black Heart is such a beautiful song. My favorite song on that album is the last one. It's Outer Space Carry On, which I think is like, I don't know, such a beautiful just song period, but also such a beautiful closer. Like, I still to this day, like if I'm listening to that song when I'm in a particular mood, I will start crying. Sorry, for highlight, I'm gonna take this MAC Whisper of Guilt and highlight a little bit, not too much, because again, I don't want to go, I don't know. I feel like that was time I'm not going to go too ham and then I go ham, but I don't want the focus of this to not be the eyes, because that's where most of the album art cover is going to be. I feel like one day I want to try to do one of these and like focus most of the color scheme not just on my eyes, but I feel like instinctively that's kind of like where I want to put it all. Like, that's my instinct goes. I can't tell if I'm overexposed or not. Like, I look white in the viewfinder, but I don't know what that is. It might just be the primer I used is like not, it's too much to pile on like on camera. Like, I don't, it's so interesting how like different products like perform off and on camera. Anyways, okay, so, and then I'm just gonna set everything down with this MAC Fix Plus. So I don't know when I'm gonna post this because I'm trying to pre-film for when I start my new job, but it is April 25th, which is my dog's birthday today. So I'm very excited. We're gonna make a cake for her, and I'm very stoked on that. Okay, I'm gonna take this ColourPop Brow Boss Gel and just put it through my brows while I talk about some other stuff. So okay, I've like been asked on Tumblr like what my like track list ranking order of this album is, and I'm not gonna like share the whole thing, but I will say my least favorite songs on this album are Money and Hey Everybody. I just think they are, like, again, I think of them fondly because they were on this album, but like I don't ever really want to like listen to them, and it's just because I think they're kind of like generic and boring a little bit, but they're still like the sound I like, so I still like if I'm ever listening to the album like on like in full, I've never like skipped them or anything. Like, I think they are integral parts of the album, and they are like the first couple tracks, so like Easy Win. So I can understand why they'd be a little generic, because they Easy Win before a lot of the heavier stuff. And there was a lot of really heavy subject material on this like album. Like I know there's like been plenty of like conspiracy theories about how Invisible, I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, I don't know if anyone's ever like disproved it or not, but about how Invisible is about it's like someone committing suicide, which is like dark, but that interpretation of it is very, like I don't think it's not supported by the song, and it's a very, it's in itself it's a very heavy song, but that additional layer makes it even heavier. Broken Home is like very explicitly, it's like I feel like part of it sounds really childish, but like in 2015, and also just like I feel like when they were writing it, it was like those are still stuff that happens when you're a kid that still affects you like well into adulthood. And so Broken Home was like about living in this broken home and like having parents that like are always fighting and don't get along, and it was just like, I don't know, the topic maybe sounds a little juvenile, but it was like it was handled very honestly and very like in a way that was very raw, and that like I feel like a lot of people don't respect it when things are not layers upon layers upon layers of like rich metaphors. And not to say this album doesn't have metaphors, but like I like it when things are plain, you know, like I like it when I can listen to a song and on the first listen I know what it's about. I don't have to look up genius lyrics and then get my English class on to understand what's happening. And I feel like a lot of the heavier songs on this album, they're just focused on like very straightforward but really heartbreaking lyrics, and very, I'm just gonna use Urban Decay Primer Potion and Prime My Eyelids. They're just very straightforward lyrics with very like, some of the instrumentals are not simple. The lyrics are also not always simple, but like a lot of the really heavy stuff like Invisible and Broken Home, it's like pretty simple instrumentals, pretty straightforward lyrics, not super like overproduced vocals, like just very stripped back. And like I appreciate that. And then you have other songs where it's like very obviously like a lot of work went into how the final version was gonna sound, but in a really like effective way. Like The Girl Who Cried Wolf that's one of those songs where I had to like listen to it a couple times for it to really like hit me. Like I feel like the first couple listens of that album, they kind of like went under my radar. I kind of thought it was a little boring, and now it's like I think like number 6 in my like track listing of my favorite songs on that album. And that whole album has like what, like 18 songs on it. Like the deluxe edition has 17, 18 if you separate Outer Space and Carry On into 2 songs, but I consider it 1 because it's 1 on the track list. But it's like 17, 18 songs, and The Girl Who Cried Wolf is like number 6 on my list because it took me a couple listens, but now it's such a beautiful, like genuinely beautiful song to me. And that is because, I don't know, they did some really interesting stuff with the composition. And I am not like a music person. I don't know anything about like how putting together music works. It's just like how I feel based on like what I've listened to. But it is an album that I really genuinely love. So I feel like, yeah, what I'm trying to say, I feel like I didn't finish the thought there. My thought process was, I feel like a lot of the really, really heavy, like the heaviest subject material is on pretty stripped back songs. I feel like the stuff that's really like overproduced, poppy kind of, like the pop, like leans into the pop side of pop punk. That stuff's actually like the less heavy material, like stuff like, yeah, like Hey Everybody or Money or whatever, like those songs, or even like Permanent Vacation, which is like very high on my list. I think it's like, yeah, it's number 4 in my order. I love Permanent Vacation, but it's not like, it's a pretty simple concept, but like it's not heavy. It's not a heavy song. It's just like I want to, you know, not work anymore, like, which, you know, I understand. But it's not a song that's like, it's very like the instrumentals are very in your face. It's very like the vocals are very like it's not like stripped back the way a lot of the like heavy stuff is. So, like Invisible and Broken Home and Hours to Carry On and I don't know, Vapor are kind of like a little dialed back, and everything else is very much not. And I think that contrast in itself is like very cool and deliberately done. But even, yeah, the songs that like get very metaphorical and like get a little poetic, like I feel like for like an indie artist they're not really, but for me they are. Even those songs, again, I like them because I can generally understand them without having to like sit and think about it, which I like, you know. I don't like having to do English homework when I'm outside of English class. But anyways, I'm going to start working on the eyes. I don't know what I'm doing yet. Let me just look at the album cover really quick. I think probably the most logical thing to do here is try to get this blue base down on my lid and then figure out how I'm gonna incorporate everything else from there. But I'm gonna move some stuff out of the way for now. Okay, so I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 palettes here, and it's because I've been trying really hard to find that perfect like yellow green and also some good blues. So I have the ABH Alyssa Edwards palette, but I feel like this yellow is too yellow, and I feel like this blue is just like not the right shade of blue at all. But I have it here in case I decide I need to use it. I grabbed this Celestial Thunder Dominique Cosmetics palette because I feel like this Lunar Eclipse orange and this Mystic Ice blue have potential. I don't know if Lunar Eclipse, I feel like Mystic Ice might skew a little teal, and Lunar Eclipse just might not be a bright enough orange, but high potential in those two shades. I also have the Lunar Beauty Strawberry Dream palette. Again, I think this Blue Sky and this Haze shade, these two blues, have like a lot of potential to build that base. And then I also have the Moonspell Lunar Eclipse palette, or sorry, the Moonspell Lunar Beauty palette. Although I don't think I'm gonna use this. I was kind of looking at Nancy, but it's definitely too teal. And then I was also looking at Bonnie as to like do the yellow with, but it's definitely just like, in the lighting I was looking at it looks a little more yellow. And also the album art looked a little yellow, like a little more green, but looking at it now, I just don't think that's the right shade. So I don't think I'm gonna be using this palette, probably. And then I also have these Avh Norvina palettes. I have volume 3 and I have volumes 2 and 3, mostly because, again, I think they have some interesting potential. They have a lot of blues to choose from, and then also I think this A2 shade might be just the perfect yellow green to incorporate into this look. And there's an orange in there too, and same with this one, same with volume 3. Sorry, these are kind of hard to open. This A1 shade, this one might be a little too green, but I think this A1 shade has potential, and then I think there's a couple oranges here that I wanted to look at. So I guess I'm gonna have to try to pick my base blue. I think I'm gonna do the bright, like this like bright base blue, and then kind of deepen it with a little bit of the darker blue, and then go in with that A2 yellow green color. I think is the best way to tackle this. Color matching is really hard because no matter how hard I try and no matter how much hard I know it's the right colors in real life, they never come across, like when posting the album next to your eye look, they never look like they're the same colors, and so nobody believes you when you're like, I swear I perfectly color matched this. Like I did it with my Yumi at 6 album. I perfectly matched every single every single purple and yellow and orange tone to ones I had in my collection, and when I tell you it did nothing for how it looked on camera, please believe me, because it really didn't do anything. Okay, yeah, looking at Mystic Ice, I don't think it's the right color. I think I'm gonna grab this Blue Sky shade and go in with that on my base. Usually I don't usually just like go straight in without like putting a neutral color down first to like set my primer, but I don't want to do that. Or actually maybe I do. I'm gonna take Skyline just to set down my primer, and then I'm gonna go with Blue Sky on top of it, because I'm kind of hoping Skyline will also neutralize, or not neutralize, but like lighten that blue a bit. Just because it's just like a fraction darker than I want it to be. So I'm just gonna put the Skyline shade down, but I'm gonna completely cover it up, which is why I'm using an already dirty kind of like blue brush to do it, because I don't actually care about getting that color like to have any sort of like color integrity. I just want like it to be a bit of a lighter base. Okay, so now I'm taking Blue Sky, and I'm just gonna like, yeah, I'm just gonna put it all down. I'm just gonna pat it on. I feel like the smart thing to have done here is probably to have put down some sort of like under eye powder to catch any fallout, but I didn't do it because I feel like that makes my under eyes look really crusty, which looks fine on camera, but looks not good in person. And I actually have stuff to do upstairs today in person, so. Ooh, that got messy. I just lean into how messy this got. This is not the right brush for what I'm doing. That was the problem. So okay, so top 5 on the album. First one is definitely Outer Space Carry On. That is my favorite song like on the album. My favorite song by them, period. I think just like one of my favorite songs of the whole time. Number 2 is definitely Castaway. I don't know why, but that song has always like on my first listen, that was like my favorite song. And it's still like, I think one of my favorites. It's just like a very simple classic like pop punk song, but I just really like the visuals and the imagery that they used in it. Okay, I think my application on this eye was way better than this one. I don't know why this one like went so far into my inner corners. Oops. I guess I'll just lean into it and just kind of get that one to be like that too. Castaway was definitely my number 2. And this is exactly the color I wanted it to be, so that's perfect. It's messier than I wanted it to be, but it's exactly the color I needed. I'm gonna grab this and grab some of this Haze shade that's next to it and just like kind of deepen my inner corners based off of the like little streaks of like darker blue that are going through the light blue. So my number 3 song is Safety Pin for the same reasons as Castaway. I think Safety Pin won just like, it was like the concept of like a safety pin piecing together, like holding together 2 halves of a broken heart was like one of the like visuals I think that like was part of the album cycle, and it was one of those visuals that I think was like really unified the fan base in a very fun, cute kind of way. Like in a way that just made me like very happy. Like it was like okay, it's the song itself is kind of like about a romantic relationship or whatever, but like the concept of like the band and the fans like safety pinning their broken hearts together was very cute. I was a very big fan of that concept and that visual. I thought it was very cute. The song, again, classic pop punk song that really like spoke to me. There are a lot of classic pop punk songs on this album, and some of them are more generic than others, and I think Castaway and Safety Pin were both less generic than like something like Money would be, you know? I just really like those songs. They both made me very happy. I can still like listen to them, and like they're never songs where I'm like, I don't want to listen to this when they come on shuffle. Like I almost always will listen to them even if I had not been in the mood to like listen to Five Sauce or listen to the album prior to that. For the same reasons, number 4 is Permanent Vacation. Permanent Vacation was also like, I think, a single, and so I have like very fond associations of being like very excited when I heard it the first time because of like what it meant for the album cycle, but also for the band in general. I was like, oh, we're about to embark on something very cool. I think that's enough. I think I might have gone a little too ham on this side with the darker blue, but that's fine, we can fix it. This isn't what I had originally planned, but now I kind of want to take that A2 shade and put it above the blue, which might be a really bad idea. It might look really weird, but I kind of want to do it. So I'm going to take this A2 shade from this Avh Norvina Volume 2 palette. I'm going to take A2, which is right here, and I'm going to put that above the blue and hope for the best. But I want to make sure my base is even first. Yeah, I think so. Okay, but yeah, Permanent Vacation I think got me really excited about the album and like what it had the potential to be because I hadn't heard it yet, right? So we only had singles, and like I think the first single for the album was She's Kinda Hot, which was like a really good first single and really fun. But the lyrics were kind of like kooky, and it was like I couldn't tell if it was like I think on first listen you couldn't really tell if that was like seriously what the whole album was gonna be, or if that was just kind of like the first single but the whole actual album was gonna go in a different direction. But then Permanent Direction like really solidified the sound, but also solidified that the subject matter was gonna be not just jokey lyrics, and this is not to say that Permanent Vacation is like a super serious song. Like it's called Permanent Vacation. It's like about not wanting to like work and just wanting to like fuck off and like, you know, have fun on your own, do your own thing. But it was just like a fun concept and really just got me excited. And so I think about it very fondly, and I still like it's a very good like sing in the car song, and I have very fond associations of being in cars and singing along to that song with like a friend. So like I will always think of that song incredibly fondly for that reason. This is very different than anything I've ever done, but I'm not upset with it. I think it's actually really fun, and I actually do think that like this yellow green was like the exact shade I was looking for to sort of counter this blue in a way that it was countered on the album cover. Take this and kind of like fluff this out a little bit, just to like blend a little those two colors together a bit. This is fun. This is very fun. And then my number 5, I'm not gonna go through my whole list because it's very long, but my number 5 favorite song on that album is definitely Jet Black Heart. Jet Black Heart means so much. So the thing with me with rankings is like it's a combination of like how much does a song mean to me on an emotional level, but also just like how much replay value does it have. Like I have to be in a very specific mood to want to listen to like Jet Black Heart because it makes me very sad. A lot of the heavier songs on the album, I think maybe they're technically better than a lot of the songs I put above them, but because I don't listen to them very often because they make me sad, I can't in good faith put them higher up because I just don't listen to them enough because they make me sad. And that's not to say they're bad songs, it's just like my personal ranking. Like it doesn't feel right to rank songs I listen to less higher up than songs I listen to more just because I think they're technically better, because I still like I don't listen to them as much, and I feel like to me that's like the biggest value in a song is how often do you listen to it. I feel like if I had put tape down and this had been like a nice straight line, that would have fucked like severely hard. I actually might go back and fix that, but anyways. So anyways, number 5 is Jet Black Heart because it is, I think, one of the best songs on the album. It was also a single. They picked really good singles. Actually no, Hey Everybody and Money were both singles if I remember correctly. But like She's Kinda Hot was a great first single. Jet Black Heart was a really good single. Permanent Vacation wasn't actually a single, I don't think. I think it was just like a song they released before the album dropped, like as like a promotional single thing. But it wasn't like an actual single, like it didn't have a music video. But they picked really good songs to like introduce us to the album and to like promote the album. Like Jet Black Heart, that song means a lot to me, but it also means even more to me because of the video. And sorry, I'm just gonna take this again and take this D2 shade and run that under on my lower lash line because I think that's a good way to kind of pay homage to the orange like writing on the album cover. Jet Black Heart is a song that means a lot to me because I feel like I have definitely felt the way that's the person, the narrator of the song or whatever describes, like I have felt that way a lot in my life. And so to hear that like articulated in that song was, especially at that age, it was like really important to me. But also I feel like because they incorporated their fan base so much into the video, it was like it just felt kind of like group therapy in a weird way for like the entire fan base to like kind of rally around that song, because like it was like, oh, we feel like this way, like we feel this way, but also the people we really admire also feel this way, and we all like kind of see each other and acknowledge each other, and we're kind of like all united in feeling in the way that we do. And I just thought that was like very cool and very special and very important to me. Can't decide if this is cool or if I look like a clown, but I do think it captures the album cover's color scheme in a very fun way. Yeah, I definitely have like blue fallout like right here, but that's okay. And Jet Black Heart was also one of those songs where like hearing it live was always an emotional experience, because one, Michael gets to sing and he doesn't like sing the lead on the songs very often, and two, it was like the whole crowd would like hype him up, and then he would just be so like stoked and excited and grateful to us, and it was just like a very fun experience. Like it was definitely like a highlight of every show I went to where that song was played. It was like hyping him up to play it, and then sitting in the crowd and crying over it was like such an integral part of the experience. And it's not to say like I haven't even mentioned songs like Waste the Night or Vapor. I talked about The Girl Who Cried Wolf a little bit and why I think that song's so good, but Catch Fire, I think I like put Catch Fire low because it also fell into the category of like generic, not generic, but like pop, like a classic pop punk song. But it was like there were so many really good classic pop punk songs on that album that I just had to put Catch Fire lower because it wasn't like Safety Pin or Castaway or Permanent Vacation to me. But like seriously, I enjoy listening to every single song on the album, even the not so good ones. It means a lot to me. It came to me at a very important time in my life. I just associate it with like very fond memories. It's such a good album. I really, 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 really love it. I'm trying to decide what I want to do next. I feel like I've captured like the main colors. I feel like I'm gonna like leave the black and white bits to like eyeliner to figure out, but I'm just trying to figure out how I want to incorporate the eyeliner. Should I just like do a wing and then do the like wrap the wing in another wing? That might be fun. Ooh yeah, what if I do a white wing and then wrap the white wing in a black wing? That might be kind of interesting. I kind of want to do like a black like regular wing and then like a white line like between the blue and the yellow, but I kind of like how they look just blended into each other, which is why I don't want to like disrupt that, because I kind of like how that turned out. But do I want to put anything? I'm trying to tell if there's like a color I want to put in my inner corners. Is there like a light blue that I could maybe put in there? Because that might be kind of nice. I don't know if I have a light blue like that though, so maybe not. Maybe a hint of like pure yellow, or maybe I'll just put the A2 color in there again. That might be kind of nice. It turned green, which is kind of how color theory works, but I'm not mad about it. And that kind of, yeah, it kind of blends together both the under eye orange and the upper eye like blue in a kind of like fun way. So I'm gonna take this ColourPop liquid liner and just do like your standard wing in like white. Don't pull your lid. I'm probably gonna pull my lid, but do not pull on your lid. Yeah, I'm gonna do it because I feel like I can never figure out my wing without it, but don't do it. I really like how stiff this like brush head is, but it gets dirty really easily. Like I wish the white was just like a little more opaque, but it's doing what I needed to do, so that's cool. There's our wings. The white looks more just like a light blue because I think the blue under it kind of canceled it out a bit. Maybe next time I would put like some concealer. I would maybe like do I try to like paint on a wing with concealer and a brush and then go over it with the white, because right now it just kind of looks light blue. I don't know what I expected. I don't know if I just thought this would be like opaque enough to go over without taking some of the color under it, but that's like my bad for not considering that part. And then I'm just gonna line the wing with some black. I always get very overzealous on my ability to like line things without fucking them up. So then you have this eye where it's like lined pretty decently, and then you have this eye where it's like super fucked, but that's okay. I think the important thing here is I tried, and I also got to talk about an album that I'm very, very fond of. You know what? Not bad. I think it's cool. I think I tried something, and that's the important part, is that I tried something. I'm just gonna take this Lancome Mercier Big mascara and put that on. So anyways, that's why it sounds good, feels good. It's such an important album to me. I don't know if I like properly articulated it, but it's like, it's just one of those albums that feels like very, very near and dear to me and very close to my heart. And like, I'm never not gonna want to listen to that album. Like even if I'm not like in a mood, if you put it on, I will have a good time. And I think that's the sign of an album that like is truly important and truly means a lot to you, is that no matter what, you want to listen to it. Like even when you don't, you kind of do. Like you could never put on that album and have me go turn it off, change to something else. There might be songs, like there might be times where I'm like I don't want to listen to Money or Hey Everybody or Fly Away right now, but generally if you put the album on and you're like, we're listening to this album, even though that's one of the first songs, I'll be like, okay, and I will look forward to having a good time. And even though I think like Five Sauce has kind of like changed their sound since then, I think they've kind of moved on from, I think that was like their getting out there, we're gonna be our pop punk emo teenage selves and like kind of like not be teenage, but like achieve the dreams of the teenager that still lives in us. Like, I think that was that album for them, and I don't think they're gonna go back to that sound as much as I would like enjoy it. I really do enjoy their new stuff too. Like, I know a lot of people don't, and I know the fan base has changed quite a bit. Like, people who only like their new sound have come, and people that didn't like their newest sound have like left, and it's just like it's a very different landscape now. But that album meant a lot to me then, it still means a lot to me now, and it's a very different landscape now, but they're still a band that I like really love and really support, and I'm very like excited for whatever the next album is, which is like, it's gonna be their 5th one, which is crazy. I got into them like before their first album came out, so I'm very excited for them. I'm very proud of them. But yeah, their second album is just always gonna live in a special part of my brain and a special part of my heart. Don't know if I like how this mascara turned out, but it's fun. It is very fun. We have this color pop. I kind of like that because now I feel like it ties together the lower and upper lash lines really nicely. And then I'm into this Spice lip liner by MAC. I think I'm gonna keep the lips pretty neutral. I think one route would be to like go orange lip, but I feel like that would look kind of clownish. So I'm just gonna take this Spice lip liner and put that on. This really needs to be sharpened. And then I'm going to take this. This is the Kvd lipstick in Lolita 2. Lolita, the original Lolita is like my favorite. Like, I think it's like the perfect, like my lips but better kind of shade for me. Lolita 2 is a bit lighter and a little bit more like, it's not orange tone by any means, but it's got just a little more of like an orange undertone to it than the original Lolita does, which is why I thought it would be a good neutral to pair here. And that's it. I'm just gonna grab this Urban Decay all-nighter and spray that on. I'll probably take some selfies and put them up just so like next to the album cover to kind of show how it looks. I don't know how like well it's coming across on camera or how like close you can see my eyes, but this is the final look. I promise that in real life the colors match what the colors of the album look like, at least on my phone screen. Obviously like things look different like in real life and when you capture them in photos, and then like different people's like different Google images will look different on people's different screens based on like what their device they're using and all that. Like, things are gonna look different, but I promise in real life this is matched as closely as I could match it to what the album cover looks like. So in terms of color choice, at least. Say what you want about my design. Other than that, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up. I'd be interested to know what you guys' favorite albums are, if you've ever done any sort of like makeup look inspired by like an album or a different kind of like art. I've seen people do like makeup looks based off like paintings and stuff, which I think is really cool. So leave a comment down below. I would love to start a conversation. If you enjoyed this video, if you could hit the like button, I would really appreciate that. If you wanted to follow me on other social media platforms, you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you want to hang out with me next week, I post new videos every Wednesday, so I'd love if you could subscribe to this channel, and I will see you guys then. Bye!